Freedom fighters, I'm coming back at you with another one. In today's video, we're gonna dive deeper into the assassination of Charlie Kirk. New information has arisen that I want to cover. And let the record show that originally I was actually trying to be the calm, cool, collected, the non conspiratard. For once, I was trying not to go full conspiratard, and I was actually believing the mainstream narrative because I believed, hey, Cash and Dan were friends with Charlie. They're not going to let, one of the most prominent conservative, influencers and, voices of our generation just get, blown away on national television. It wasn't, I don't believe, nationally televised, but that's essentially what it is nowadays when everyone's got video and the films all over X and, prominent congressmen and women are posting the footage. It's nationally televised and pretty much, to the world. Um, so, I was like, they're gonna get this guy. They're gonna, you know, investigate thoroughly for Charlie and get him justice. So, when the events unfolded, and what really needed to happen was the FBI once again failed. Cash and them, it's really just a clown organization at this point. Who knows what's really going on, but we needed a clear and precise investigation, and we needed to be in on the information, and they needed to give us a timeline and give us what's going on. And from the very beginning it was like, oh, there's a manhunt underway. Oh, we got the guy. Oh no, it's not him. um all that stuff, all that's been covered. But then it was like, oh no, we're looking for help, and all the confusion. And then we never really got any answers after that. Like, what happened? What was the caliber? Where was the shot fired? The time and events. A graph, or almost like a explanation, laid out of what happened. We never really got that. They just said, okay, this is the guy, and this is the weapon we found in the woods, and no clear explanation. How did he break down the rifle, or did he break down the rifle? A lot of the things people have heard are just, secondhand, like, and people talking just like I'm doing with you right now, like we're talking about and theorizing what happened. But I never heard Cash or the FBI or the Utah governor ever give a press conference and be like, "This is how it happened." It's all just like, okay, well, yeah, he took the shot from the roof, and then we found his rifle in the woods. And again, the reason I originally believed the narrative was because as I said, I expected them to pick some mentally ill transformer and middle of the night raid, and take them out, and then they would present us this patsy that wouldn't be able to speak from them for themselves, and tell them, yep, that's the guy who did it, and that's that, and that would be it. Well, that's, I mean, essentially what they're trying to put forward. But and then the story, again, we covered this. I couldn't get past, how did this guy admit to it, or his family turned him in, and all this stuff. Well, now Candace, which take that with a grain of salt. I'll admit she's been going a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but again, like, her best friend was just executed publicly, so I understand she wants to investigate all angles, as she should. Um, but yeah, she's, overreaching in some areas and looking a little crazy and stuff like that. She got this recent thing that went mega viral where she's just like, you shouldn't ask any questions. And, looking all weird and twisting her head around like she's got an exorcism going on or something. Um, but anyway, she's, unraveling some certain things. And then she said, so the case is getting a little clearer now. The guy, the family friend, who's like a 20-year sheriff deputy or something like that, he's a long history in LEO and all that stuff, said, oh, Tyler, this is you. And he told the family, everyone knows it's Tyler, and he told them like they know it's you, and if you don't turn yourself in, well, they can, they'll get a SWAT team in here to kick down your doors, and it can get ugly, and you're basically going to get blown away. So, you need to at least go in there, turn yourself in, peacefully, if you don't want a bad outcome. So that's kind of the reason they went forward and went in with the turning in. The parents essentially couldn't believe it. They didn't believe it. He denied it. And then you have, the and he has pled non guilty. Um, so then, people say, well, you have the admittance in the text messages and all that, which, also sounded really suspect because, I saw what is that? Like a meme that was on X, or a guy did a video, reel or whatever, and he was making fun of like, Tyler is a 4.0 GPA, really smart young man, yet he goes and commits a crime and then writes on the text messages, like, oh yeah, it was me, I admit it, my bad. He was, full of hate, and I just got tired of the hate and all that. To not expecting that's going to be found, like anybody, not you don't even have to be smart to realize, like, you don't text something like that, you don't write that out in your phone or on a computer, on an email, um, any modes of communication, right? If you were to confide in your partner or anyone of something like that, it would be like, hey man, like meet me at that special place. Like, that place we like to hang out, that rock or that cliff that overhangs the river, or just go meet me in the diner we always go meet at, let's talk there. And you would talk in person. Like, you wouldn't lay it all out in an email or text message. Um and then AJ from the Infowar put forward that he was actually part of some young CIA recruitment program. So that's a whole nother thing. And then you bring in the MK Ultra and the setting up for the passing, and it starts to make sense. Um, and I saw another video from a guy that actually made the most sense. And this was just a small, like, no big name channel. I should have bookmarked that video so I could at least link to it or something. But he made a really good point, because I still couldn't get past, like, if he didn't do it, then, why would he even be going along with this? And they could be like, because he thinks he did it. And that's how you get the most efficient patsies. And that part blew me away, because I wasn't thinking about that part. And I was like, okay, like, that starts to make sense now. And it's basically, essentially what you do is, especially like the MK Ultra program, or, I mean, this is what they do. They find people who want to do these things. There's the case in Texas where the guy was like a shooter. I forget what he was shooting up. For some reason, I want to say it was maybe like a video game tournament or something. I'm not too sure. But essentially, he got a couple shots off or something like that. And the FBI agents that were watching him, that were essentially his handlers, were the ones that took him out. And then it found out that they were basically grooming him in the text messages and pushing him toward this. So he might have once, upon a time espoused, his hate for Charlie Kirk, and, I wish that guy would just disappear or something like that. And they say, they push him in that direction. Well, you could make that happen. you could do that. And he was like, yeah, maybe I could. Like, I went hunting with my dad, and, I can have access. I believe it was his grandpa's rifle. He was like, yeah, I can, get my granddad's gun and, all this stuff. And then maybe they loaded up for him with blanks, or, fake rounds and stuff like that. And he goes, lines up the shot, takes the shot, what he believes is taking the shot. But then, someone else takes him out in some way. And that's the part I don't have an official, there's content creators like breaking up over this. And everyone speaks at it like from a matter of fact. Oh no, it was this guy in the audience from the third row back that is blurry as hell, that looks like a freaking cotton ball. And, his hand is making, various gestures that sure looks like it's bouncing from recoil or some kind of pistol. But no one knows, you can't tell what that is. And then, no, it was the security guard, and he's got his arm underneath his armpit, and he shoots like that. I mean, that is just an insane shot. And just like how Trump turned his head and he's moving around and in a wisdom, like if you were really trying to take this guy out and the bodyguard was like, doing that, even if you practice that like 100 times, Charlie's bobbing and weaving, picking up and putting down the mic, like you're never like, what if you fire off and that whizzes right by him and hits the person, to the side of him in the crowd, and then like what, you just gonna open fire? Then everyone knows it's you. Like, it has to be that one shot. Same thing, you got the other security guard in front of him that adjusts his sleeve or whatnot, and they're like, it's a sleeve, shoulder mounted brace like pistol or something. And the one I'm most likely to believe is the lapel mic. Someone else did a breakdown of it where they slow it down. I'm not sure what that vision or whatever was called, but it was like an animated, almost like thermal looking thing where they broke down the angle and everything, and you can see the original chest impact, which looks like, it comes like from the mic, and the shirt's moving to the right, like the side of his neck, and then that's when you get the hole, which, almost is like the exit. That's not the entry. And, the lapel mic would, lead towards the conspiracies of a little country in the Middle East taking him out, and the way that they've used pagers and cell phones in the past. Could they not have loaded that mic up? But, that brings all different kinds of questions in it. And was a security detail compromised? All that. I know people were like, oh no, those guys are his friends and all that. Well, Cain and Abel were brothers. There's people all throughout time where friends turn on each other, or, heck, blood has turned on, bloods turn on each other, friends turn on each other. If they believed he was going off the reservation and he was discovering things, and they, gave the word like, hey, it's time to stand down and this guy's got to go, then maybe that's what happened. But I just wanted to cover, that, and I'm going to try to just like lay this to rest. I mean, unless something huge comes out again, I really don't want to, touch on the Charlie Kirk issue again. I mean, if Tyler Robinson ends up showing up, dead or something, and Eastein's himself in his cell, or, something like that, sure, that's going to be breaking news and cover that, but, and for to see what happens to his sentencing. And I mean, if I was him, man, I'd be screaming to the rooftops. If it really isn't him, like when he was on that video, pleading not guilty and everything, I would have been like, it's not me. I didn't do it. Everybody, I'm being set up. I'm being framed. not just sitting there looking, flat faced like, how do you plead, Tyler? Not guilty. I'd be like, what's going on? I need people looking into this. I need help. Somebody help me. They're framing me. They're setting me up. But no, he just kind of sits there. I mean, more has to be said. More needs to be found out. But the picture's starting to get put together with the whole CIA background and the family friend telling him to turn himself in. Who's he connected to? Who was whispering in his ear? Um, and again, has Cash even like looked into all this stuff? Is he even looking into this, or has he put the issue to rest and said, that's it, we got the guy, and they're gonna let this guy burn for it? But let me know what you think, man. Until the next one, you know what it is. We are on our own. Nobody's coming to save us. So get right with God, because only God can save you. Freedom Fighters out.